Dreaming the world into being. There's science behind that. And when we align our beliefs and our actions and our feelings and our intentions, we claim our power. Today we're claiming our power as we hold our dear friend Bob in these powerful intentions, as well as all the people suffering in our world. Dreaming a better world into being is one of the ways that Unitarian Universalism serves us and serves the world, because our covenants are a tool that allow us to align our visions and our imagination into something better. For UUs, this is one of the purposes of religion and spiritual community. It's what sets us apart from many other religions. We believe that revelation is not sealed. I think I heard that phrase for 20 years as a UU without ever really knowing what it meant. It kind of took me seminary to figure it out. But my goal here today is to reduce the lag time between you hearing that phrase and understanding what it means. Maybe it's a low bar because I was a little slow, but basically, traditional religion is set up to tell people this is how it is. This is what God thinks, this is what Scripture says, and this is how you are to behave and why. Well, most of us are here because we don't believe that anyone has the objective truth, the final word on the nature of being and God and morality and salvation. We're here because we believe that revelation is not sealed, that life is unfolding, and that we haven't reached the finish line yet. Liberal theology says that the universe is evolving and the story is still being written. We believe that we write the story with our free will and our choices, and that is the grounding of our faith. In 1961, two Christian Protestant denominations got together and said, hey, we share core values and we believe we would be stronger together. And the Unitarians and the Universalists formed the Unitarian Universalist Association. Now that association had to have bylaws, so this is what they came up with. Oh yes. Oh, did I do that? Oh, okay. This is my first time doing this, so bear with me. These are the 1961 principles. We won't go through all of them, but you can see in here that there is some language that we no longer use. They first came up with the language, well, let's see. We can thank my dear friend and colleague, Reverend Juniper Meadows from Second Unitarian Church of Omaha for these slides which she shared with us. I wanted to say that too, and you'll see the chalice from their church is on these slides. So in 1961, a group of people, including Pris Ledbury, who many of you know Pris and Rhoda, she was included in working hard to collaborate on the 6 principles to guide our faith. They first came up with the language to articulate a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. That was pretty out there for 2 denominations that came from a Christian identity, and they named our Judeo-Christian heritage also in the 2nd principle. They also named the worth and dignity of man, and democracy and brotherhood, and cooperation. I think they meant all people, but at that time, their language only included males. That language was reflective of the times because our UU predecessors were not fully evolved and inclusive in 1961. And while we have made great strides towards inclusive language and practice, remember, we still aren't there. We still aren't fully enlightened beings. We are still learning. And as UUs, we're not afraid to name that. So our UUA bylaws try to do something most organizations' bylaws don't do. They're part of a secular system, and we're attempting to use bylaws theologically. That's so UU. It's so exemplary of how we roll. We even bring our search for spiritual truth and meaning to legal structures. And these bylaws serve as both a legal and a moral anchor point for UU identity, and that is a lofty goal. And I think we've done it well. We aren't a creedal religion, we're covenantal, which means we're bound by our agreements and core values. We're bound by our promise to do our best and use our covenants as guides. Individually, we are members of the UUA, and we, individually, we're not members of the UUA. As individuals, we are a member congregation, and as a member congregation, we've made a pledge to uphold these democratically articulated covenants. So here's our 7 principles that our congregationally we have agreed on. And at General Assembly, actually, I need to go back. Don't look at that yet. At General Assembly, which is our annual meeting where we do our UUA business every year, in 1985, the 7th principle, a pledge to affirm and promote the interdependent web of life of which we are all a part, was adopted, and the language of the 7 principles was revised, thank goodness. Now, we've made a few adjustments to the language since then, but there hasn't been a movement to add to or radically alter our 7 principles until 10 years ago when the BIPOC UU community asked us to add the 8th principle to our UUA bylaws. Many congregations, last count I heard was over 200 congregations, including Columbine, and there are about 1,000 UU congregations. So we're the trendsetters here. We're one of the early adopters. So about 200 congregations have added the 8th principle, which affirms and promotes journeying towards spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and other institutions. And while our 6 sources, privileged traditions traditionally dominated by white folks, here in our, when we run, here, oh, okay. And while our 6 sources of our faith, also included in Article 2 of the UUA, opened us up beyond Judeo-Christian scripture, people have often noted that they didn't include Islam, Buddhism, and Hinduism, all also major religions on the planet. And when we run our 7 principles and 6 sources through the rubric of white supremacy culture, it becomes apparent who is included and who is left out. Our 6 sources privilege traditions that were traditionally dominated by white folks. So even here in our sacred covenants, we find that we're still falling short of inclusivity and multiculturalism. This conversation and the one around that started 10 years ago with the creation of the 8th principle reminded us that we are overdue in revising Article 2 of our UUA bylaws, which is something we are committed to doing every 15 years because revelation is not sealed. And 1985 was a long time ago. While we knew some stuff back then, we've also grown and evolved by leaps and bounds. I was 14 years old in 1985, and I've changed a bit on the inside and the outside, although we still have that piano. Her Royal Majesty Laura, our board president, was having babies who are now adults. Richard Pulaski was adulting with his siblings. Sue Sloth was a fan of hair products. Georgia was looking something like this. This is a facsimile. This isn't really Georgia, but that's basically the right idea. Sarah was dreaming of traveling the world. MJ was also a new mom. Reverend Alwyn was an adorable little person growing up in Boulder. And our music director, Leah, was Stardust. Her parents were 12 and 13. So suffice it to say that a lot has happened in the last 32 years. All of us have grown and changed and learned to use computers and email. And we've just begun to explore how our identities shape how we behave, what we expect from the world, and how we treat each other. So it's time to think deeply about what it means to say, I am a Unitarian Universalist. In 2020, the UUA asked a group of lay leaders and ministers with diverse identities to form the Article 2 Commission. Now, some people asked, does this mean we shouldn't keep working in our congregations to adopt the eighth principle? It's looking like Article 2 is getting a complete overhaul, and we might not even have principles and sources anyway. But our wonderful lifetime UU leader, lay leader, Paula Cole-Jones, the main visionary behind the eighth principle, said, nope, don't stop that process in your congregations. And I 100% agree with her. Here at Columbine, we are living proof of the power of the eighth principle. And no matter what the covenants of the UUA evolve into the next couple of years, we don't have to throw our eighth principles in the trash because they're still useful tools. But we may find that because Revelation isn't sealed and because in the last 60 years we have experienced such an expansion of our consciousness that we might benefit from a new approach, a new articulation of who we are. So here we see what our Article 2 Commission, oh, no, this is the present text of Article 2, which I don't expect you to read all this, but you kind of get the idea. It has our 7 principles in there. Our purposes, non-discrimination, freedom of belief. And this is the proposal for the revision. This is all available online. This is what they have come up with as a proposal. Now, these folks didn't just make this stuff up on their own. They held dozens of listening sessions, mostly over Zoom, with UUs from all over the country to gather input into this revision. I attended a couple of the sessions and I listened to webinars where the Commission has shared the process on their work. And over the course of its work, the Commission engaged in 45 feedback sessions with a total of 4,611 participants. Their videos reached 7,765 viewers, and their 29 surveys generated a total of 10,925 responses. So, before you get out your highlighter and your red pen, please remember that 3 years and many hours of blood, sweat, and tears in collaboration with hundreds, thousands of UUs have gone into this proposal. Now, of course, there's people already emailing me and other ministers in ardent protest of this proposal and threatening to split the UUA. Change is hard, and y'all know how much I love the 8 principles and our 6 sources. The more I study and reflect on them, the more they inspire me and help me feel united with you all and with our UU faith. They gave me a language to articulate what we believe. I love them. But also, I want to grow. I want us to grow. And I know that 5 years ago when I started my path to ministry, I was so ignorant of so many things. And goodness knows what I still don't know that I don't know. So I hope that you will all help me in figuring that out. But that's just the last few years. We've all grown, and the world has grown in our understanding of compassion and equity. So let's push ourselves out of our comfort zones and into a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. This process is what it means to be a Unitarian Universalist. One of the young adult women who serves on the commission said that when they put out the call for ideas and suggestions and conversations about how to redefine our UU faith, she was getting annoyed because she kept hearing people say the same things over and over. And then she had an epiphany. UUs all over the country with diverse identities and social locations were asking for the same things. It's actually brilliant. She realized how magical that is. We do have a UU identity that reaches beyond our 8 principles and 6 sources already. We are alive and responsive to the world around us, as horrible and wonderful as it is. We are modern people navigating global pandemics and advancing technology and racial and political unrest and climate change and political radicalism and all the things. We are not the people of 1961 or 1985, obviously, and while I'm still as gorgeous as I was in 1985, I have changed. Maybe not on the outside, but on the inside. And all of us have, especially Leah. The world has changed. Unitarian Universalism is changing, and that is uncomfortable, confusing, and edgy, and it is the beauty of our faith. So the second piece, oh, this way. Juniper made these so fancy. Okay. It's coming back. I thought it came back. Okay, come on. In any case, that graphic, which, yeah, I went back and it didn't come back. That escaping little graphic. Okay, this graphic is actually written in to this proposal. The A2C Commission said, what if we used a graphic to describe our faith? It worked for the artist formerly known as Prince. It's different from what we're used to. And it takes some time to see how our 8 principles are woven into a different format, but one that aspires to be less heady and less like rules. So here are each of those. This is articulated as well, each of those core values. So this is part of the proposal. And then inspirations, inclusion, and freedom of belief. These are the core values we share and statements of covenant to live into them. So please go home this week and Google Article 2 proposed new bylaws and really give them some open-minded, thoughtful consideration. We'll be voting on them this summer, and they are still a work in progress. And I'd encourage you not only to spend some time sitting with the proposal, but also to notice your inner dialogue and run it through the rubric of our anti-oppression learning. Are we culturally programmed to be reactive and to polarize, to be perfectionist, to react to something new and different that's uncomfortable? Are we worried about what we'll lose if we don't have those principles and sources as a touchstone for our identity within ourselves, our congregations, and the world? Do you feel like attacking this proposal with a red ink pen? That's how a lot of people reacted to the 8th principle. And in the adoption process, I wasn't here with you all, but the congregation I was working with at the time, JUC, found that in the process of considering a collaborative document, while breathing through the temptation to make it perfect or micro-dissect it, was in and of itself a process that led us towards more multiculturalism and away from the fearful state of perfectionism. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't read the Article 2 proposal and not be creative or let the Spirit move you towards other ideas, but remember, you are not operating in a vacuum. You are not an island of superiority. You are a UU, and you are invited to collaborate with other UUs to envision and articulate the future of our faith, the next revelation of our prophetic voice. Blessed be, and may it be so.